So let's take a look at what does really a malicious hacker do. Malicious hackers basically are going to follow 5 basic phases to their hack itself. They're going to do reconnaissance first off, and we'll talk about what is passive versus active reconnaissance. Then they're going to scan their target. Then they'll attempt to gain access, either at the operating system or maybe the application level, perhaps at the network level, or if they can't gain access directly, maybe they'll just do a denial of service. The next step, once they do gain access, will be how do they maintain their access? In other words, do they upload a Trojan or some other form of a backdoor that makes sure that they can get in the future? And then finally, they'll clear their tracks so that nobody can tell that they were there. This way, when they come back in again, they know that they'll still be able to get in and do what they want to do. So the first phase is reconnaissance. Basically, with reconnaissance, what a hacker does is he gathers as much information as he can. He gathers information from all kinds of different sources, and this is kind of referred to as rattling the doorknobs. You're really not trying to break the door open yet. You're just looking around. You're just trying to see what's available. Who is the company? How many employees do they have? What kind of websites do they have? You'd be surprised at all the different information that you can get out of a company. Now, there are 2 basic kinds of reconnaissance. You have passive reconnaissance, which involves acquiring information without directly interacting with them. Some examples of this, for instance, you could do a search on Google about the target, find out information that way. You could also have active reconnaissance in which you actually go and interact directly with them. For instance, call them up, ask the operator to transfer you to somebody internally. So there are 2 different kinds of reconnaissance that people will do. A lot of passive reconnaissance people don't consider. For instance, you can find a lot of information about a company. For instance, look at the want ads. What kind of jobs are they advertising? What kind of skills do they need? That tells you a lot right there. For instance, if they're looking for a system administrator who's proficient with Windows 2003, then you know automatically that they're running that kind of a network. So there's a lot of other ways that you can find information as well. Look at any of the different newspaper articles that you may have about that company. As I said earlier, do a Google search on the company. Now, the active is a little bit different. With active, normally you'll call up, or maybe you'll just go by and ask them, hey, what are you do here? Who are you hiring? What kind of company is this? So active is more of an interaction with them themselves. The next phase is scanning itself. And scanning is kind of when you do your pre-attack phase. In other words, you're not yet going to attack. You're just trying to take this information from the reconnaissance and now dig a little bit deeper. You want to find out a little more information. And basically what you're trying to find is, how am I going to get in? Now, you can do all kinds of scanning, everything from different dialers or port scanners or network mapping, different forms of sweeping, vulnerability scanners, and so on. So there's a lot of different ways that you can scan and find information, and this is what the hacker is going to do next. Once he's figured out where he wants to gain his access, he's going to go ahead and gain access. In other words, he's going to actually penetrate the network itself. Usually he's going to use some well-known exploit, and this exploit can be over a LAN, it could be over the internet, it can maybe even be physical. Maybe he gains access to the building itself, and then from there he can access the systems. So there are many different ways that he can actually gain access to the system. He can gain access by looking at the different architecture or maybe the different applications that you run. And basically, he can get his access at the operating system level, at the application level, or even at the network level itself. Now, once he has gained his access, then he wants to make sure that he can maintain that access. Maintaining access is really where he wants to make sure that he can get in anytime he wants. He's already compromised the system. He may have already found a different exploit, but now he's going to make sure that he can maintain and get in whenever he wants. This is where you'll see a lot of times they will upload Trojans or other backdoors to the system. And in fact, he may even patch the exploit that originally let him in. This way, if you were trying to scan for the system to find out if your system was vulnerable to this particular exploit, you would see that you're not. But he's already been there, and he's already planted something to let him get back in later on. So the last phase is the covering tracks phase. Now, during the covering tracks, he's actually going to go and check the log files and check the different directories, and basically he's going to look for anything that might tip you off that somebody has been in the system. In addition, he's going to make sure that when he comes through in the future, he can get in and not leave any tracks there. So they actually may go through and empty log files or delete log files or just tunnel into the system directly itself. So covering tracks is the phase where most people will make a lot of mistakes. So that's why it's very important that you really pay attention to the logs and so on. Let's talk about hacktivism now. Now, hacktivism is kind of a funny word. What hacktivism refers to is hacking for a cause. A lot of people that are doing malicious hacking have an axe to grind with somebody. They've got a cause out there. They're hacking because they don't agree with the politics or they don't agree with different countries' foreign policy. Whatever it is, they've got something going on. Usually it's some kind of a social and or political agenda, and basically they might do simple things like simply deface a website, but they might also go through and make sure that other people can come in and hack as well. In other words, they'll try to wreak havoc for this cause.